The Pixel 10 Pro versus Galaxy S25 Ultra, two of the most powerful Android phones right now. But when you actually use them in real life, the differences are shocking, especially when it comes to battery and cameras. I am Mo, and I'm gonna do this comparison in the city of Berlin. I started the test around 10:30 in the morning, while both phones were connected to the same 5G network and charged to 100% in my hotel room. The Pixel 10 Pro is a smaller version of the Pixel 10 Pro XL, but that's what I like about this phone, since it does offer all the features of the Pro XL in a more compact design. The phone is heavy though and weighs 207 grams, but you can attach MagSafe accessories to it without the need of a case. The S25 Ultra is even heavier at 218 grams, but it is also considerably larger than the Pixel 10 Pro. You notice the difference if you put them side by side. The S25 Ultra is also a bit boxier, while the Pixel has a more rounded design. The S25 Ultra camera bump is more subtle and it has 4 cameras in it, while the Pixel has a classic Pixel look with a triple camera setup. I also simply love the gold-green color on the Pixel 10 Pro. The Pixel 10 Pro did fix one of the old standing issues with Pixel phones, which was a low PWM. Now, you can go to settings and double the PWM, as you can see in the video, and protect your eyes. I took this picture with both phones, and the S25 Ultra did more HDR processing, especially if you look at the lamps in the middle. I checked out of the hotel that I was staying in to attend IFA to have breakfast outside. The Pixel 10 Pro display is bright under sunlight, but it's not anti-reflective. That's one of the main advantages of the Galaxy S25 Ultra, which offers an anti-reflective display that also hides scratches more. I went to a bakery to have breakfast and put both phones to play YouTube on 5G. The Galaxy colors are vivid and nicely rendered, but the Pixel colors are a bit dull in this 4K video. But you may prefer that over the vivid colors of the Galaxy. One thing I did notice though is that the Pixel has a better focus shift than the Galaxy, and the Galaxy does breathe a lot. In this picture, the colors are closer. The Galaxy photo is a bit more contrasty though. By the time I finished the coffee, the Galaxy was at 92%, while the Pixel was at 94% battery left. I then put both phones to navigate to a church using Google Maps. Kaiser Wilhelm is a Gothic and Roman church which is not repaired after war on purpose to keep it as a memorial of World War II. One thing I wish Android phones would fix is this ugly zoom shift when you go from 1 to 5 times zoom. I took some pictures of the church. On the main lens, the Galaxy is more towards green, while the Pixel has a lot of magenta. You can observe the same on the 5 times zoom picture too. That also means for skin tones, Pixel will make you a bit more lively, but the whole thing is a bit subjective. To check the color accuracy, I set my white balance with my Sony camera, and I took this video with it inside the old church. I do find the Galaxy is slightly more accurate and closer to the Sony camera, especially for the gold part, while Pixel footage is a bit darker and contrasty. But in terms of quality, they are very close. On the ultra-wide lens, I found Pixel keeping the white balance better though. The Galaxy footage was not doing great with lights in general. For pictures with the ultra-wide lens though, they are pretty much the same and it is hard to distinguish between the two. For 10 times zoom pictures, the Galaxy has a bit more exposure and is sharper than the Pixel photo. Galaxy also tends to make the photo more vivid than the Pixel. I also found Pixel oftentimes exposes the footage more than the Galaxy, especially indoors. This is a picture of the church before the war. One interesting observation was that the Galaxy got hotter when I was taking videos than the Pixel. Both phones also had a good antenna even in the basement. Now, the Galaxy is at 84%, while the Pixel is at 88% battery left. I then went to one of my favorite shops, Muji, which I first saw when I was doing my studies in Singapore. And then I went to Dyson, your wife or girlfriend's favorite tech brand, to check the new vacuum cleaner. I took this video outside with 10 times zoom, and I do find the Pixel footage to be shaky. Generally, I found the Galaxy doing better stabilization than the Pixel on the default mode. As I mentioned, both phones are bright enough under direct sunlight. But of course, if you keep them 3 to 4 minutes under sunlight, they both go above 40 degrees Celsius and 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and they dim the screen to not damage the battery. There's a new feature on the Pixel phones that enhances the pictures, and it means you get further zoom levels. To test this new 100 times zoom feature on Pixel phones, I decided to go to the Berlin Zoo. The way the feature works on the Pixel is that you should put the phone on 12 megapixel and zoom more than 30 times into the subject and wait a few seconds to process the image. The result can be very astonishing. Of course, this is not an actual optical image coming out of the camera, but heavily enhanced by generative AI algorithms, but it's cool to be able to see things from very far. Just note that this feature doesn't really work with human faces. I also use the circle to search to look for the animals I took a picture of, and this combo of zoom and search is godly for wildlife. The quality of the pictures on 10 times zoom is rather comparable though, and Pixel can only achieve this zoom by AI. Galaxy S25 Ultra can take videos in 8K natively, which gives you a very sharp image if you want to crop it later. It is really crazy how phones these days casually give us such sharp footage. With Pixel phones, there is no native 8K option, but you can select the 8K option and Google Cloud processes the video and upscales it to 8K for you. The result is also great in this case, but sometimes you have to wait a long time. Galaxy, on the other hand, gives another option, which is shooting in log. With this option, you can color grade the footage however you want, as I did make the footage warmer in this case. Another advantage of the Galaxy is that there is also a 3 times telephoto lens, while the 3 times zoom on the Pixel is cropping from the main lens, resulting in an inferior result. On pictures with 3 times zoom though, there is enough processing on the background that the footage is not necessarily any different. They both do create really nice pictures whether it is optical or cropped from the main sensor. Sometimes on 3 times zoom, it is obvious that the Galaxy is a tad sharper though. Galaxy also gives you a lot more options with the native camera app. For example, you can do focus pulls by manually changing the focus from the background to the foreground. And that app, together with log, gives you a crazy amount of autonomy. Pixel generally does handicap the camera a bit. For example, in portrait mode, you can take pictures at more than 3 times zoom with the Pixel, which is a bit crazy considering that's the main point of having a telephoto lens. The Pixel camera takes better macro photos though. I left the Berlin Zoo and now the Galaxy is at 45%, while the Pixel is at 59%. I'm surprised as you are at that difference so far. I went back to the hotel. I used a Galaxy S Pen to do a quick to-do list. I met Becca at the Samsung event, and she was surprised that I'm using the S Pen. Apparently, it is not that common. But write in the comments if you do the S Pen too. I ordered a coffee at the hotel bar. By the time I finished the coffee and uploaded all the pictures and videos to Google Cloud, the Galaxy was at 33%, while the Pixel was at 49% battery left. I navigated my way to the airport using Google Maps on both phones. I took the train since there was a direct connection to the airport from my hotel. I also played one round of chess with each phone on the train, but had to stop the game after one round since the route was simply amazing, and I looked outside the whole way instead. Now the Galaxy is at 27%, while the Pixel is at 42%. I was lucky that I arrived right before golden hour at the airport. And since we are in Germany, I took an obligatory video of BMW iX, which apparently still doesn't support turn signals. I got into the plane, and one interesting thing is that at sunset, the Pixel is now the phone that is saturating the colors more than the Galaxy. The sky colors on the phones are quite different too. The roles are now reversed, and the Galaxy is more purplish, but also more stable on 5 times zoom. Generally, if I had to choose between one of the phones for zoom video, I would pick the Galaxy. It was getting dark, and the strawberry moon was rising over the horizon. I know technically this photo of the Galaxy is not completely AI generated, but it doesn't reflect reality at all, while the Pixel at least does a semi-decent job of taking a photo of the moon that I saw at the moment. On the other hand, the Galaxy was handling the sky at night much better in this video, while the Pixel sky shows gradients and is pixelated. For the night photos, the quality is very similar on the main lens, with the difference that the Galaxy color are more muted. On 5x zoom though, the Galaxy picture has a higher quality. When I landed, the Samsung Galaxy had 10%, while the Google Pixel had 29% battery left. I took the train to go back home, and then I made this video with both phones at night. I found the quality rather comparable, except for slight differences in processing in the footage. For night photos though, here Pixel did it better. I generally find Galaxy struggling a bit when there are multiple light sources in the scene. As a side note, I also ran this AnTuTu test the day before, and as you can see, the Galaxy S25 Ultra with a Snapdragon 8 Elite has more than double the score of the Pixel 10 Pro with Tensor G5. By the time I got home, the Galaxy was at 5%, while the Pixel had 24% battery left, which is amazing. The total screen on time was around 4 hours. This result really shocked me. I didn't expect such a big difference between the two phones, especially since the Pixel 10 Pro battery capacity is also 130 mAh smaller than the Galaxy. Also, what was surprising throughout the whole test is how much cooler the Pixel 10 Pro was compared to the S25 Ultra in most of the tests. It does seem the Pixel 10 Pro is a very decent option, especially if you want to have a flagship Android phone in a more compact size and have a Pixel Android experience. The S25 Ultra has better video processing, the S Pen, and a larger anti-reflective display. I'm personally conflicted about which one I would recommend. Maybe you can also consider the Pixel 10 or S25 as other compact flagship phones. If you want to see the comparison of S25 versus Pixel 10 in a day in the life, you can watch this video next. Thanks for tuning into Techmo, and I will see you in the next one.